Okay. Welcome, everyone. Another edition of the Regenerative Finance CVC subcommittee meeting. Seeing all my favorite people and anons in the room. We are focusing on the protocol scope today, and we have guests joining us from DWIZ, and I'm not sure. Definitely Effie's the person or the contact I've been messaging with from the group who's not here yet. I don't know if anyone else from DWIZ. I see a couple of folks that I'm not familiar with. Nix, welcome. Upmakers here, hello. So while we wait for all of our guests to arrive, I will say a few words. I'll welcome myself as a member of the AVC. So as a lot of you on this call, hey, Effie, welcome.
Hey, hello.
Welcome. So I'm going to be very, very brief because we really want to spend the entire hour with you and DWIZ. But I did just want to do some housekeeping. I'm officially a member, personal capacity, my PFP capacity of Regenerative Finance AVC, and really excited about that. And I wanted to just say a few brief words and give everyone, all of our delegates, a little bit of a heads up about the rest of the meetings for the quarter. I'm going to definitely be following up with a blog post on the forum to kind of introduce myself in this capacity. All of you know many of you will know I've been involved in Maker for over a year and a half, initially as a recognized delegate, and then, have been part of this transition. As a lot of you, some of you probably have been, maybe some of you here have other identities that I know. I won't assume that, every delegate or every anon is completely new to the protocol. But, it's been a journey, and it's still very much the beginning of a new journey. And I feel compelled and excited to devote more time to this experiment and this work. I felt that while anonymity is important and powerful, and we're having a lot of new participants that I think are carrying that mantle really well, part of my decision was also that I think that there is a role for those who are known to Maker to some degree. I mean, I'm certainly not like an OG by any stretch of the imagination, but I have some provenance with the protocol under my, actual identity. And then I think that for the outside world and within our community, that, having some people who are comfortable and able, because of course you have to pick your spots. An AVC member is like the one spot where, being doxxed is perfectly appropriate. But I also thought this was also a good moment to declare that I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to put my name on the project. Of course, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of fear in our community and in our space and our sector right now. And I just feel very strongly that there's nothing to hide from. There's nothing to shrink from. I mean, there might be, but I'm choosing not to, because I think what's happening here is the most important thing I can be involved in. And I have to say that, attending Rune's meeting last Friday on what the data set work is going to be in the role of the AI and the LLMs in governance, really, really, really fired me up as well. And I, in my personal capacity, have a history, experience in philanthropy and impact investing. And so, that part of what this work can change for the better is where I'm gonna personally. I love Bugs Bunny. That's so good. That'll be sort of my personal pet project within, of course, the broader work of the Regenerative Finance ABC. And, couldn't be more thrilled that Mike from Abundance DAO will be partnering with us along with Space Exponential, who's been, just such, I think many of you will agree, a shot in the arm in terms of, the heart and the intellect and the integrity that, she's brought to the ABC and really helped us put some structure. So, just really proud that we've been able to co-found the ABC with Space and that Mike is joining, representing MakerDAOs. And so, MakerDAOs, just briefly, really, really briefly, is, a network. I'm a co-founder. I'm one of, dozens of founding members that joined in when the project launched December of 2021. But, it's always been, even though I've been involved at the inception as a initial instigator, it's been very important to me that there would be no MakerDAOs unless it was really truly a community-led grassroots thing. And so the way that MakerDAOs has approached forming a tokenized community, is very slow, is very deliberate, and there's a lot of whiteboard there. And Mike and Abundance Protocol cooperating with the ABC, is really just the tip of the iceberg of what I think the MakerDAOs as a network of ReFi, regenerative finance builders and participants can do for Maker and for our vision of the, decentralized sovereign world stablecoin currency, whatever it is. We'll find out the new name that we can start using at some point. But Mike's research is other planetary. It's galaxy-like in its nature. And it always struck me as I, actually met Mike last fall at a hackathon for Fancy's project, a really fantastic community that it's just blanking in my mind right now. But what's been great about following Mike's work is how aligned it is with the end game. And so we're excited to draw upon Mike's research for our position papers and our governance strategy. So what you're going to see from ReFi ABC is really going to begin to look like, Radar. Thank you. Yeah, Radar's Futurethon, which was an unbelievable experience. But it's, we wanted our policy documents to have some teeth to it, some be research-based, be data-based, Space Exponential. You've seen some of her chops, a few of the meetings that she's, presented her, taking us down some really interesting rabbit holes. So really excited to draw upon Abundance DAO's, kind of research and thinking about some of the topics that I think the ReFi ABC obviously want to represent for Maker. And so just looking at the calendar, we have scheduled 2 more meetings after this one, the 29th and the 5th, to cover whatever the other 2 scopes are remaining. We will have off on September 12th. There'll be no meeting on September 12th. And then the 19th and the 26th will be our 2 meetings that will focus on the governance strategy docs. And Mike will, have the stage on the 19th, and you'll get to learn about abundance. And then, on the 26th will be our meeting where we can dig in a little bit more on our strategy docs. And so we're not needing the delegates to do any writing or work on the strategy docs. You've been doing that. A number of you have been doing that every week. So that will be the time when you're going to see that, oh yeah, we have been reading your weekly reports, even if, we don't touch on them in these meetings. So that's all that I wanted to cover on that. And now I'd just love to introduce our guests for the meeting, DWIZ. We're going to introduce themselves and, feel free, of course, people to add questions from the chat. And Cloaky, when I stop talking, I will look at your comment and I'll reply in the chat. And of course, I'll get back on the mic toward the end when we have more of a Q&A. Because I can't do both at the same time. It looks like a lot that you've said there. So I want to be sure I can focus on that and then address it as the moderator. So Effie, should I hand over the mic to you now?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for the invite. I'll be sharing my screen, and we have a little presentation I want to share with you. Let me know if you see my screen. Beautiful. I see some thumbs up coming in. Cool. So as said before, thanks a lot for inviting us. A few of the DWIZ members are also here in the call. Well, I go through the presentation. It's quite short to the point. So if you guys have questions, throw them on the chat. If I'm able to follow up, I'll try to answer them as they come. If not, at the end of the presentation, we can all just discuss it, either come up in the mic or I'll just read the chat questions. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. So let's go for this. So we're DWIZ. We're an ecosystem actor. We want to go a bit who we are, why we are doing what we're doing, and what value we're delivering to Maker. So we are the co-founders of DWIZ, are former MakerDAO core unit contributors. We've been contributed to MakerDAO for over 1.5 years. Focused always on technical duties on smart contracts. And overall, DWIZ as an ecosystem actor has several years of experience in the wider Ethereum ecosystem. Why we do what we are doing, we do believe that financial inclusion is a basic human right, and our mission is to help de-wizarding DeFi, so making it more accessible to commoners. I think it's a great technology, but we all know UX, UI, has been like on the back burner for many years because a lot of the ground research and innovation has been happening. And yeah, still quite some work for normal people to be able to interact with it. And this is what is moving us to work every day. What do we do? In general, DWIZ is a DeFi software engineering boutique. We focus on engineering services for DeFi projects, Maker being one of the most interesting ones ever. We work primarily with smart contract engineering, even though our members of DWIZ profile can cover Web2 front end, back end, and DevOps technical experience. But smart contract engineering is what keeps us ticking and makes it interesting. So this is what our main focus right now it is. And we focus on EVM compatible chains, EVM, Ethereum virtual machine. So the whole Ethereum ecosystem, L1, L2s, this is our expertise area. And going a bit more specific into what we are providing to Maker, we're one of the first ecosystem actors that was incubated, and we're delivering value in a few sets or areas. We've tried to communicate this based on the different scopes that the Atlas has provided. So on the protocol engineering scope, there's an area called governance security engineering work. And here we are focusing on spell crafting and reviewing. We've worked on 9 spells throughout the year, plus 1 out of a schedule spell, which required a 24-hour SLA. This was a spell that was created for Clydesdale standing resolution for them to be able, not Clydesdale, Coinbase custody, for them to be able to move funds out of Coinbase when the PSM was below a certain threshold. So spell crafting and reviews, this is like a main focus. It requires a lot of attention to detail, and it's the most security complicated task that we do every second week. We have been doing this for over a year and a half because in a core unit setup, every single collateral onboarding, offboarding, and management that was required for mainly RWA vaults, but also some crypto-native vaults, was also executed by our team. So we were contributing to the spell code that was used for all this collateral onboarding. So spell crafting is something that the team knows for over a year and a half. And since this new setup of ecosystem actors where protocol engineering has dissolved, it has become our main responsibility to provide this crafting and reviewing resources for the protocol. Due to the fact that there are certain ecosystem actors now crafting spells, there's a new dynamic. So we've been discussing with other ecosystem actors process improvements and spell crafting. So there are different teams working on it, different mentality. There's a new setup, how we can improve it. And it's not only improving the basic process just because there are new ecosystem actors doing the crafting, it's also because there are new requirements, there are new needs. The DAO has changed. There's Spark Protocol, for instance, how we're going to treat Spark Protocol spells, how we're going to keep the security, at what level can we compartmentalize risk between the Maker protocol and the Spark protocol. So those process improvements are things that are constantly being discussed. Sometimes you can follow up some of those discussions on the New Spells channel. Sometimes they happen on GitHub. Sometimes they do happen privately because of security reasons that we are discussing. And yeah, they don't need to be fully public while they are being discussed. So those are 2 elements that are very interlinked: spell crafting reviews and the process improvements of that task. And the other thing that we're helping the MakerDAO is vendor liaison management. This involves contracts, billing, training, and project management for 2 vendors that the protocol uses. The auditing firm, Chain Security, it's an old vendor from MakerDAO, and we continue the relationship with them. So we are managing all that business relationship with them and making sure that other ecosystem actors can get access to their services and then prioritize those services and make sure that everything is coordinated accordingly. So the deliverables from them and from us are, aligned with expectations for the project, mainly auditing needs for the endgame. So all the code base that endgame is requiring is being audited by Chain Security. And then the other vendor is Certora. They provide formal verification tools. Again, it's focused on security of the code. Specifically for Certora, we are organizing with them a training. So few ecosystem actor members are joining the training. Will happen somewhere in the next months. Continuing on the protocol engineering scope, there's another area that we're gladly to provide support to because it's very closely linked to the endgame. There's an area called Ethereum Core Protocol Features, and there are new features required for the endgame. There's a sub-DAO proxy contracts. This is a contract that is actually being used already in the Spark protocol. It's a way for compartmentalizing, let's say, risks. So certain privileged permissions can be executed through the proxy contract into the Spark protocol. and that, the Maker protocol and Spark protocol, from a risk and authorization perspective, they're independent. Then there's the sub-DAO tokens, ERC20 tokens that the sub-DAOs will have, with small differences from the typical standard ERC20. And yield farms, this is a requirement for, I think everyone has put it as gamifying a bit the governance or the interactions with MakerDAO. So here we are just using a battle-tested yield farm with some small modifications for the endgame requirements. And these are the set of contracts. Is, if I remember correctly, 3 contracts that are going to be interfacing with another set of Maker protocol contracts in order to bring the yield farms to life. There's going to be a few yield farms. I think each sub-DAO will have a farm to reward users with their sub-DAO governance token. But there will be also farms for the new governance token to incentivize new members to acquire the new governance token and to start interacting with Maker governance. And the last, which is the newest piece of the puzzle, it's a sub-DAO allocation system. This is a piece that is, there's another ecosystem actor doing the design, but due to our experience in the RWA operations and collateral onboarding, we've been providing some consultancy on how is that allocation system going to interact with the rangers, because the allocation system, at the end of the day, it's going to be the set of smart contracts that sub-DAOs are going to use to allocate their credit line that Maker Core will give them. And they will have to use this allocation system in order to funnel the funds into a set of integrations. And some of the integrations will be arrangers. Those arrangers most likely will have like real world asset investment strategies. And part of that allocation system is going to be operated by the arranger as well. And that's where the rubber hits the ground, in the sense that the arranger and the sub-DAO through Maker Core are the ones that are going to do that investment. And this is where DWS has been having quite some experience, because we've been in the front row when Clydesdale has been deployed and scaled up, or when Andromeda has been deployed and scaled up, and the hiccups and defining the money flows and all that. And we've been providing some intel into how to design from a smart contracts perspective the allocation system. So we reuse some of the normal processes that we have for the RWAs right now, and maybe evolve them a bit. So we've been also consulting arrangers and people that have been involved in the typical MIP-21 RWAs in order for us to inform this new design. I'll go into that true name at the end. With there's a discussion going around that. I'm not actually covering it here in this slide, but I'll comment at the end. So for the protocol engineering scope, this is what we're focusing on. As I said before, governance, security, engineering work, spell crafting, reviews, and the management of the vendors. And these 4 new elements that will be parts of the puzzle for the end game. And then a bit of the, let's say, everyday type of work. In the stability scope, there's an area called allocator vaults. This is where most of our time has been spent in the past, and we continue to do it. Basically, launching the Clydesdale, Andromeda, Block Tower vaults. There were 4 now. There are 2, if I remember correctly, and also the centrifuge integrations, where lately there has been some more work, not just deploying new vaults, which was like the work that has been done in the past. Sadly, in the last few weeks, there has been some hiccups there, and we have to execute some work that actually has never been executed before, like I think liquidating a vault and centrifuge is something that was not ever done. So going through all those vaults, pretty much our typical work has been collateral, technical onboarding, and management, which is pretty much 3 elements, and every now and then there are new requirements. So first of all, making sure that we have a technical assessment that defines the money flows, but also the technical implementation of those. And this has been discussed, with the rangers and different counterparties that are going to operate the vault, and also highlighting the technical risks of the design that has been proposed. Once that is done, making the deployment and onboarding a spell for the collateral. In the past, we were contributors on that spell. Currently, sometimes we're the only crafter for that spell or reviewer. Once we have a technical assessment and the vault is going to be deployed, there's a vault operator. There's actually an entity that is authorized to interact with the MIP21 vault. And normally that entity, at least throughout our experience, they're a bit new to blockchain interaction. They have a good sense, but interacting with a Maker vault, managing hundreds of millions sometimes. So we do provide guidance, training, and support. So there's a training and guide provided to them. We do a call with them to go through the minting process, which is the typical thing to ramp up a facility. But then also when there's a bit more urgent needs, we either try to provide support upfront and then reminding them, hey, what are the contracts and the functions that you need to interact in case you want to execute an action, and how to verify that the addresses and the functions that we are providing are publicly available, and how they verify that what we're saying is true. So always having a look at what is the state of governance, or what is the state, for instance, of the PSMs. I'm trying to front run the need from the operator. And if they, if they have questions, so we can always answer to them, and we have direct contact with them. So we're always doing support for them. And the last point, which every now and then, I could even say almost for every single deployment we've had, either slightly new money flow or slightly variation of a conduit. The last one has been the block tower conduit, the multi-swap, where it's a pretty cool need. It's like a very common sense need. It's just that before it was never, because of the size of the other PSMs, it was never useful to do a multi-swap. But in the case of block tower, now when their Andromeda vault wants to mint DAI, they can choose whichever PSM of the 3 ones available right now they want to swap through, which is quite useful, because in the past, if they wanted to use a different PSM, we would have had to go through an executive vote, which, involves a whole governance process. You might need a poll, you will need an executive, but also involves engineers and GovAlpha to coordinate, create new code. Every time there's a line of code created, it's a potential risk. So creating this functionality that gives them freedom, they can react at the speed that they want, and the code is immutable. So once you have it out, it's done. You reduce the coordination, the time to market, and the risks. So this is what we've been doing for the stability scope. And I believe this is pretty much it. I'll go through the question from True Name. So let me read it out loud. What are your views on responsible reporting of code vulnerabilities? Thinking about the curve exploit in particular and how that was handled. What should be codified in the protocol scope about this, bug bounties, etc.? The bug bounty topic is been actively scoped. Bug bounties are needed for a protocol the size of Maker and way smaller. As long as there's on-chain funds held on smart contracts, bug bounties are needed. There used to be a core unit that was managing this. I think the line of thought is migrating into a vendor. So move them as like a similar relationship that Maker has with Chain Security and Certura, where the protocol engineering scope provides a budget that is managed through their facilitators, and that there is an ecosystem actor that is helping on the everyday, contract bill and training and project management. It's been discussed who is going to take the lead on that and responsibility on that. That's like how to manage the bug bounty provider and the importance that it requires. So it's going to be most likely managed similar to what Chain Security and Certura are managed, just as a vendor relationship. I think the bigger scope of things, and feel free, there are other two contributors from the WIS in the call, so feel free to interrupt me or provide your own thoughts here. But on responsible reporting of code vulnerabilities and thinking on the curve exploit, one of the key roles that bug bounty vendor provides is managing that communication. So first, there's an incentive for white hats to disclose vulnerabilities that they have found, and then Immunify, which is vendor is currently available, their expertise is into managing and filtering all those disclosures that they get, making sure that they are legit, and then coordinating the communication internally. This type of disclosures and coordination among ecosystem actors happens almost every week. So Immunify does contact ecosystem actors with different disclosures. And we do have a channel of communication where several ecosystem actors are in communication with Immunify, and they provide access to the information that has been disclosed. We discuss it internally, and depending on the size or the severity that Immunify assigns to the topic, we might coordinate in real time, or we might coordinate asynchronously. For now, there has been a few disclosures in Immunify. You can read them on the forum. And I think this is just, one of the best ways for the protocol to manage this, having a bug bounty with an economical incentive and a vendor that is expert on managing the communication, because it needs to be privately held and well coordinated within the DAO in order to assess if an action needs to happen or not. During the specific curve exploit, in that sense, for Maker, it was, let's put it away, an easy way to analyze the exposure, in the sense that it became obvious, well, not obvious, but it was well known early enough in the Ethereum community that exploit was on the programming language compiler. This Maker uses Solidity, so we were not impacted. And there was only one ilk that contains an LP from Curve, and it was not affected. So in that sense, it was easily to define that the Maker protocol was not impacted by this. Today, there was a balancer vulnerability that was disclosed. Again, in these cases, when the Ethereum community raises something like that, that is for another protocol that is not Maker specific, so it's not coming through an Immunify vulnerability that White Hat has disclosed, the ecosystem actors normally exchange thoughts and ideas, and we discuss. But in the balancer case, also was simple to define that the Maker protocol is not impacted. It's a wider Ethereum problem, but Maker is on the safe side. I hope that answered your name. If not, feel free to jump into the microphone or provide more color in the chat. I'll go with you, Publica, 1 second. See what's your name, type in. Yes, you're totally right. I saw the mention from Sam asking people to withdraw from the pool. So I think for the SDI token itself and its backing, I would imagine there's no, I haven't done an analysis or discussion with the team on this, but I would imagine the SDI token and its backing is not impacted. The pool and the balance, how that pool is balanced, would be impacted. So the people that were LPing into the pool, yes, they would be affected. Yeah, exactly. Similar to what paper is putting. It's more of a end user problem. So if you're LPing, your actual funds might be at risk, but the wider SDI token, its backing and Maker protocol is not impacted. It's just maybe that person's SDI in that specific pool. Bona Publica, with regards to maintenance, how often are the 113 Maker Solidity repos analyzed, reviewed, and updated? How important is it to perform reviews and updates? Does they see any obstacles maintaining the repos? You guys have a lot on your plate. Maintaining 113 Maker Solidity repositories, that is a big task. It's not only us, there are other ecosystem actors providing contribution to those repositories. How are they reviewed and updated? Every time a model is going to be deployed or replaced through an spell, there's a normal review by your team maintaining that repo. So they have their own standards on reviewing. If we take, for instance, the review process of spells, which is a very detailed one, there's one member crafting, so one member coding, and then there are two other members doing a review on the code that has been provided, and the review follows a specific guideline on how to review that code, not only a personal professional experience as a developer, but also a standard that is specific for spells. So in general, each repository might have slightly different review standards, but in Maker, if the module or the code that is going to be deployed is going to hold assets, and those assets are going to be sizable, like many of the core models in Maker, that code will go through a auditing firm review, where they most likely change security, where we have a retainer. They will assign auditors, and the code will get audited. They will provide an interim report where their findings are shared, and the findings are always ranked by severity. The team responsible for the code will review the findings. Either will acknowledge and change, or will acknowledge and not change the code. The team, knows better the requirements and the purpose of the code. The feedback is provided to Chain Security, and then they provide a final report. And all the audit reports will be added to the repository. Normally, there's an audit folder if you go into some of those repositories. Once the audit has been completed, then the code is actually deployed, most likely through a spell. That's a normal flow. Then that code remains there. You can check the audit report, and you can check the exact commit hash that was audited, because sometimes that same code base is going to be starting to be updated to another need, another requirement, another variation. So you can always see what exact code was audited and what's the difference of the new code that's been produced. So that's the normal process to maintain those repos. If they're going to be deployed and it's going to be sizable assets, then it's going to be audited. Sometimes there's code changes that are done, and because governance changes their mind, or because it's just a design exercise, they don't get audited. They're just code changes that are sitting there. In the past, there was I think in terms of maintenance, there was a push by the DAI Foundation, is it, to enter standardized licenses, naming convention of the repos, etc. They still, the teams doing coding will still follow the good old guidelines from the core units on how to do the licensing and naming convention, things like that. Every team that is owning a repository also is responsible for either marking the repository as archived, meaning, hey, this is code that is not actively maintained, it's not using the protocol anymore. It remains public, but it's set as archived, so people that are looking at it can tell, okay, if this version is archived, maybe there's another version, or maybe it's a feature from the protocol that's not needed anymore. You can go through those Maker organization on GitHub, and you will see some archived repositories, and they're all like from the good old days, from the single collateral DAI days, or the old liquidation system, for instance. You might see them also as archived. So yeah, this is the way that all that is maintained. It's basically a need-based. Is the code needs to be updated because there's a need, and there's sizable funds, it will be audited, and then it will be deployed. So that's a way to maintain it.
Let me just add a little quick to that, what you already said. But just to be clear, like smart contract systems are a little bit different than traditional software in a sense that for MakerDAO, this is even more clear because like MakerDAO doesn't do upgradable contracts in general. So like once the code is deployed, it is final. So there is actually no need for maintenance. Everything happens prior to the deployment. So if requirements suddenly change, for instance, we had the flapper, the old version of the flapper, and it needed to be changed to another one. It's not that we are amending the new ones, we are actually building a new one. So Pull-Up Labs built a new DSS flapper, which is not related at all in code level to the old flapper. So it's a different repository. It's a different. They use some slightly updated changes because the language changed. The language that we use to write those contracts changed. So it's a little bit hard to keep track of everything, but we ensure that no balls get dropped by carefully reviewing and, of course, auditing everything that is sensible to the system. So what is actually on chain is something that we know for sure it is safe. And that's the onus and the bonus of blockchain. Like everything is immutable. So if you make a mistake, there's no taking back mostly. But like once you get it right, you can guarantee that it will work well unless something unexpected pops up. Okay, so regarding the Spark proxy, there's the main governance proxy is called the Pulse proxy. It is a smart contract that has the function to isolate the execution of context from spells from the main governance contract, which is called the DS pause. What happens is that we wanted to achieve further isolation. So when Spark was firstly deployed, it was wired to the main governance proxy, the pulse proxy, but that brings some sort of security issues. So we built the sub-DAO proxies, which are being used by Spark now. They are a slightly modified version of the main pulse proxy. It has been audited by Chain Security. And then it was deployed, and the ownership of the Spark protocol was moved to this other proxy. So it's basically a different context for execution that completely isolates. So nothing from Spark can ever touch MakerDAO code. And the other way around is like MakerDAO can only interact with Spark through the Spark proxy. So we have like 2 layers of security in this case.
And Vana Publica, no, we are not involved in the new chain and the 2-stage bridge discussions. I don't even know if that has even started.
That's probably far away in the future. Rune said about 2 to 3 years. So, yeah. Yes, every SUBDAO will get a proxy. There is not there is no sub proxy other than Spark at this moment. But they will use the same code. It's just like different instances of the same code.
Were any of you all on the Friday call about Gate and the next generation of the Atlas?
Yep.
Okay, let me think of what my question was. Maybe just love to hear your reflections or your reaction to the content of that call. I know a number of delegates who are here attended that call. It was not recorded, and I understand that those calls will not be recorded, and I guess only context that the wider community will be able to get from them is whatever people decide to write on the forum thread. But I found it, very fascinating and illuminating and educational about, how the Atlas is intending to evolve into this like JSON document of a data set that then is going to be food for LLMs and whatnot. So I wondered if your team could comment on how you understand what was covered on that call and how it's impacting your work today, if it is, or where you see it in your sort of bucket of work and timeline.
I think the way this new type of interfaces like ChatGPT provide to users is very interesting in the sense that you can digest and even dissect tons of information in a very easy, digestible way. Navigating MakerDAO has been historically complicated. I think navigating DAOs in general, it is complicated. Even for ecosystem actors, I think the tool can provide benefits. Being able to stay on top of what is going on and be able to react accordingly based on our mandate, it requires time, it requires effort. And DAOs operate in not only one single communication channel, like maybe in the old days, a company would work on one single communication channel, email, let's say. Here we have forums, we have Discord, and we have other chat software. So consolidating all that information and making sure you're taking decisions well informed, it is a painful process and way too time consuming, and details will fall through the cracks. So having a system that is able to coordinate all that and help you digest and dissect the information, I think is very, very useful. And it's already providing value. Like, there's a huge adoption of all those ChatGPT and LLMs. So it's proven there's product market fit of some of those. An instance for MakerDAO will have to work on it and make it useful and reach product market fit for it. So I think it's totally useful. There is, I believe, the sense that the LLM will help people craft articles for the Atlas. In general, I'm personally a bit hesitant for a machine to do that. I think digesting or coming up with real, true insights requires real intelligence. I think humans are the only ones that can come up with true, novel insights and from analyzing data and being able to craft that. So, yeah, I'm a bit.
Are you saying humans are have more intelligence than machines? That's like, I think that's sacrilege in these quarters.
I feel like extracting an output from LLMs, I think it's really useful. Telling the LLM come up with a very concrete insight about all this information. I think that the technology still have what is called this hallucinations, where they come up with.
Yeah. Well, I think what Bonapublica is saying, I agree. Get the gate. I get the gate is more for guiding human participants and for making definitive decisions. And yeah, that's also my sense of this, that for a very, very long time, and this is what I've heard Brune say, it just helps the humans know where to look. And to your point, I mean, that it's just going to help us do so much of the heavy lifting and the hours that otherwise it takes to just make sense of all of the stuff that's going on. And it's a little bit of a segue to Clokey's question, not to interrupt our flow, but I just want to make sure we do get back to the governance sidebar that was happening. So I just apologize. I want to just throw this out there in case people want to get into it in the chat, and then we still have a few minutes to make sure we're getting all of the last nuggets of information from DWIZ. But so on the topic that Clokey raised, which is about their amendment to the scope, and whether that the ABC, Refi ABC, supports that amendment or not. I just mentioned that the ABC's official policy is not to give any guidance directly on specific votes. So all of you ADs should evaluate this according to your own sense of the Atlas and MakerDAO's public good mission, purpose. But I did ask a question of Rune at the end of that meeting, specifically about whether AVCs should be at this moment proposing language for the scopes, or more higher level kind of conceptual, thematic vision points. Because there seemed to me, my understanding at the end of that meeting was that, there's going to be this parallel effort, which I'll let you all know. I'm intending to participate as much as I can in that. And it seems like, really actually quite a lot of fun and a lot to learn. A lot of, tactical work, which we'll learn more about, I guess, on Friday. So love to see as many of you delegates there, kind of every week or whatever the work is going to be that comes out of that. But that, in fact, that work of really transforming the Atlas that we have today into this machine readable syntax, the JSON formatting, and really building it up as a data structure is really a prerequisite to the kind of amendment work that we really need to do. So my sense was that, and my takeaway from Maroon's comments was that, ABCs, and I think for refi ABC, we're not going to go down the path of digging in granularly on editing the particular scopes. So, and this will come out, we'll internally flush this out as an ABC and, kind of have a clear statement at the end of the quarter about this. But that, the lifting of the data model and the restructuring of the atlas from a formatting perspective and really kind of understanding the system at its core, it was so different fundamentally from having, this text that we have now that's on the forum and then manually trying to, make sense of it and trying to improve it. For me, again, I'm giving you my personal opinion that it's maybe not the best use of our time or focus, but certainly it's great that there's so many ABCs and so many delegates and so many people involved who will spend a lot of time on what words can be changed now. And I'm sure that will be valuable, in the wash. But that my sense is that focusing on this structural work will inform the changes that should be made on a technical level, right? So that at the AVC level, we can be talking about our values, we can be talking about big picture, which direction, what's missing, what are the gaps. But it feels to me premature to compete with the actual technical changes that need to be implemented at an amendment level. So those are my 2 cents on that. And I'll pause for any comments in the chat, both on that or, things that Dee was and we were talking about. But I think it's still incredibly important, even delegates, if you don't have time to go to those meetings, again, they're not going to be recorded. My takeaway from it was just that it's essential understanding to grasp where this whole thing is going on a technical, and I'm not a technical person, but that this is even different from the smart contract world, right? And so they're going to be intersecting, but having a sensibility as to what the atlas really is going to be as a thing is starting to be, kind of clarified and explained and taught. This is a whole area in those meetings, and the more delegates that are able to go to those meetings and then cover them in your weekly reports, post on the forum about them, because they're not going to be recorded. So it's going to be a small group that probably really gets into that. And so I think the delegates will be in the best position to write about it, so that there is a wider engagement as we go. Okay, defensors writing. Yeah, love to hear. Anyone want to come off mute about that or anything? Please do. But that, again, just to be clear, that this is a parallel. It's not at all, from what I understand, going to be a requirement of delegates in terms of, your job and your role and participation. It's just completely, frankly, I mean, it's an opportunity if it suits your interests and if it suits your time. So it's a parallel thing. It's not, from my understanding at this point, kind of the core job responsibility of a delegate or ABC member for that matter. But naturally, it deals with us, particular alignment conservers, and the governance scope will be probably the first one that gets the treatment. So it can feed into the mechanism for, how the others will. So 0x Defense says, you'll see if it makes sense to take some notes from the Friday call. The last one was a kickoff. Yeah, it was quite general. Yes, wonderful. Open Sky, yeah, they're overlap. Oh, hi, Open Sky. We've got a big crowd here now. they overlap with yours, right? You wouldn't be able to get the whole thing. Yeah, it depends on how structured it will be. Navigator, plenty of notes from Friday's call. Continue to incorporate some of those notes into our wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. So, Effie, I just want to give you the final words here. I kind of hijacked, excuse me, your response because it was such a great layup for that question that I wanted to get to. But please, thank you so much for this. This is just gold what you shared with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, everyone. There you have the link to the presentation for anyone that couldn't make it. You can have a look. Feel free to reach out to any of us, either in the forums or here on Discord, and we'll be happy to answer. And you will see us every now and then on NeoSpell channel, doing some work every other week. And yeah, thanks a lot, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you next week. And we don't have any special guests for next week, so we can do a little bit of a maintenance on our weekly reports and just governance in general. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.